All right, Sophia, so this is the first step that I use to make, to begin the whole process from the very, very beginning, which is making the agar plates. I'm using 750 ml of just tap water. You can use distilled water if you want, but tap works. I'll be pouring it once we're done mixing into this glass jar with this funnel. Nothing has to be sterile at this point because we're gonna autoclave the whole thing once we're done. So there's no worry about contamination at this point in the process. I'm using nutritional yeast. Do not use baker's yeast because that is live yeast. Will likely be killed in the autoclave, but you still don't want live yeast. Use nutritional yeast. This is lab grade agar, regular agar that you can buy at the Asian stores, Asian food stores won't work. This is light dry malt extract. You can get this at any beer making store. And then I've got the scale. Here's the formula. We're gonna add 750 ml of water, 11.5 grams of dry malt extract, 1.5 grams of the nutritional yeast, and 15 grams of the agar powder. That differs from the formula on this, which uses twice as much, even more than that, twice as much of the gram powder, but you don't really need that much. It'll be way too thick in any event. So let's get started. I'm gonna start weighing out everything, and then we'll add it to the lukewarm water. I'll turn it on now. And then we'll bring that to a rolling boil. We want that at a low rolling boil until everything becomes either clear or a tan color. You don't want any clumps or anything visible left. And so that may take 15-20 minutes at a rolling boil. And then once we're done with that, we'll pour it in there. Okay, so I've weighed everything out in this OXO scale. This is in grams. It's not exact, but it's within a gram of each one of these values. So I'll take this. This is now lukewarm. We'll just dump this in. There we go. There we go. Again, we're not worried about sterility at this point. And then the recipe, which I got off of ChatGPT, says to keep stirring it and make sure everything's mixed together. We don't want anything burning on the bottom of the pot. And so I'll just heat this up to a rolling boil and get back to you once we are translucent or golden yellow in color with no clumps. Okay, so by the way, I just want to let you, just a quick heads up. Oh, let me tell you, the company that I got this is that one, Eviva Sciences. That's where I got the agar powder. Again, you can't use the dessert grade. It won't set. The other thing is this light dry malt extract from the beer store. That stuff will soak up moisture from the air and it gets extremely sticky. So if you spill it somewhere, it's just like sticky glue all over the counter. It's going to be very difficult for for me to clean up later. So try not to spill it. Okay, so rolling boil for about 10, maybe 15 minutes, stirring occasionally and often. Just want to make sure nothing gets stuck to the bottom and burn. All right. I don't know how translucent that is. I can't really see it with all this foam, but we'll let that go. Okay, turn the fire off. Now, I'm gonna take this and we're gonna put it in here just in case the glass shatters. We don't have malt extract all over the kitchen. All right, so here we go. Hopefully this glass holds. There we go. I tried it with 1 liter, but it wouldn't fit into the jar. Let's see, got anything down at the bottom. There we go. All right, then we'll put some water in there, make it easy to clean later. And then here we go. So that's 750 right in that jar. Pop that in there. And then we're going to put this in there. Okay, and then I just use aluminum foil. I'll show you the tape. I use a patient tape that covers this, that allows oxygen to go in and out and carbon dioxide to go in and out, but not spores and bacteria and viruses. So we'll take this out into the shed, and I'll show you how I set up the sterilization with the autoclave. Oh, just one more thing. Do not grab this glass jar with your hands. This is boiling water, and that glass jar is hot, hot, hot. So make sure you have something like this. This is from the grill, and I'll use this to hold the glass jar, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna burn yourself. All right. Okay, so now we're out in the shed. What we're gonna use for the autoclave, and we're supposed to autoclave this at 15 PSI, that's 15 PSI, for no more than 15 or 20 minutes. We don't do the 90 minutes that we do for the Agar Plates. If you do it that long with this, it'll actually break down the agar in here and destroy it. So 15 to 20 minutes, 250 degrees Fahrenheit, and 15 PSI. Now, so again, we're not in the sterility part of this, so I can touch this with an unsterile cloth, no problem. It's going into an autoclave. That'll take care of anything that grows. I use just a simple 3M gentle paper. It's what they call patient tape, paper tape. And what it has is these tiny little spores in them will actually keep out bacteria, other mold spores, and viruses. It'll keep it out, but allow oxygen and carbon dioxide to travel freely across it. So I just put 2 layers just to make sure it's sealed. And believe it or not, the autoclave will not melt the tape glue on this. It'll actually stay on from this point on until we pour it. I put this back on just in case it doesn't. I haven't put enough in here for this to overflow. But if this should overflow, just put something like this on top to kind of trap it. Okay, again, too hot to touch. So let me grab this. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm using here is what's called an All-American pressure cooker. This is the big model, whatever their biggest model is, that's what this is. These jars will eventually become grain jars in the future. But right now, they're just there to keep this thing from falling over if for some reason it should fall over. Okay, into the bottom of this, I have poured already a half gallon. So we're going to do a total of 1 gallon. You never want to run these things dry because it'll crack the aluminum of this thing right here. So I put in 1. I'm putting in a second. We'll just dump it in. Again, this is tap water right out of the hose. Some people insist on distilled water. Fine, but you're going to be paying more for that. Okay, so I've got 1 full gallon of tap water down in the bottom of this. That screen right there I actually made myself. I ordered these on Amazon. They're 14-inch pizza trays. And then I just went to Home Depot and bought these screws so that it lifts it up off of the water. And then I put plates in here, and I can stack these one on top of the other and put them all into the autoclave later. And we'll do that. I'll show you that later. All right, so now we've got the jar in there. We've got the lid. I'm going to move this sort of towards the center. That way it won't hit the top of this. We're going to line the arrows up here. There we go. This goes on, twists on. Ugh. And now it's just a matter of screwing this lid down tight, and then I'll start her up. Okay, and I guess I should have showed you this earlier. What our final product is going to be is these Agar plates. This is made out of glass, not plastic, so totally reusable. You can turn them upside down if you want. This agar is going to stick to that plate. In fact, if you're not using it, you're supposed to store them upside down so condensation doesn't build up on the agar. Now, that right there is reishi, RL. It's not, yeah, RL stands for reishi, whatever the last name of that is. That I poured about a week ago, so that's already catching on. This is something else I can't remember. Not lion's mane, but one of the other ones. This is actually turkey tail. And look at that. Look at that's what you want. That's what you want. Nice cotton ball growth of mycelium. In fact, the purists, what they would do is at this point, they would cut out at this leading edge about 8 of these and then transfer them to the center of 8 different fresh plates, because this is the fastest growing portion of it, and that's what you want, that rim right there. Anyway, so that's, some of them are growing faster than others, you can see. That looks good. No contamination, I don't think. Here's your lion's mane, just slowly getting on. And that may be due to the inoculation process. Maybe I didn't get enough out of the syringe of the spores. But that's what they were, spores in sterile water, and I just squirted maybe 1 ml into the center of each of these plates. But you can see the lion's mane is slowly moving on. Turkey tail's going like crazy. The reishi, and what the heck was the last one? I'll look that up and let you know. But it was one of those fancy mushrooms. Anyway, so that's the 4 that I've got. That's about a week's worth. I'm just sitting in here at room temperature, in the dark. You want to keep them in the dark. No sunlight at this point. There we go. So okay, so I'm using a propane tank hooked up to an outdoor a grill system. I believe this base came with the All-American autoclaver, the pressure boiler, but I'm using it as a pressure cooker, but I'm using it as an autoclave. You see this dial right here? This is in Fahrenheit, and then the smaller numbers are in Celsius. We're going to get it up to about 250 is where we're going to set it, and that's about 121, 122 Celsius, but 250 Fahrenheit. And then you've got this little neat device. Here's an out blower. It blows the steam out here. And depending on where you place this, I can do it at 5 psi, 10, or 15 psi. So if I put that there, it'll take 15 psi to lift this up ever so slightly and let the steam out. You got to have one of these on to make sure you got 15 psi. You definitely never want to cook with a completely sealed lid. This thing will become a bomb. It will explode and it will hurt somebody. These are screwed down tightly. I do opposite sides at the same time and I go all the way around. So this is nice sealed down. There is a safety pop-off valve here that will actually pop off if the pressure gets above, let's say, 20 psi. But we never want to rely on that right there. Okay, so what temperature, how much flame do I use to get the optimum amount? You have to figure that out. So what I've done is I've dialed in on this part of it. This sets the amount that's coming out. This is the on or off valve, and this is the amount. And so what I do is I set that to where I want it to be. Let's turn this on. So now gas is going in. Let's light it. There we go. Heard that kafoomp. So we know that's lit. And then I'm going to crank this up higher in the beginning, and then I'm going to dial it back just to get it up to temperature. It's going to take about 15 minutes to get up to temperature. And then what I'll do is I'll set this to here because I know right there is the sweet spot to maintain that temperature and pressure without going over or under. All right. So right now, everything's cold. Dial hasn't moved, so about 15 minutes we'll come back and dial that thing down to the preset, what I know to be the best amount. Okay, so alarm just went off, 15 minutes. We'll just double check it here. Still on full blast. a little trickling out there, but that's going to become like a steam. This is way down there, still not at 150. So what is that, 128, we're like 130. So we'll give it, at this point, maybe 5 more minutes and we'll double check it. Okay, so now we're at 7 minutes past the 15, so I guess a total of 21 minutes. We're up to 250 and you can hear that steam coming out of that. So that's what we want to hear throughout the boil. And we'll come over here, we'll dial it back because we don't want to overheat it. Dial that back to where I know it's going to be, it'll maintain this temperature. So now we'll start the timer for 15 minutes. We'll give it 15 minutes and then we're done. Okay, so that's 15 minutes. And it's maintained its temperature, 250. You can see the steam puttering out of that. Okay, there we go, puttering. Okay, so we'll come over here and we'll just shut it down. Righty tighty, there we go. All right, now this thing is still pressurized and super hot, so we don't dare touch the screws holding everything down. We got to wait until that temperature drops down to, down to room temperature before we do anything with this. We'll also pull that off just to make sure that there's no pressure inside before we dare touch these tie down screws. So that'll be about 20 minutes or so. And then we'll take it in the shed and I'll show you what we do with it after that. Okay, so that's been 20 minutes. Temperatures come way down. Now, still hot, obviously, but if you lift this up, you can hear there's still a lot of pressure inside there. So what we'll do is we'll take this in and then remove this, allow the pressure to, be released. And then we'll unscrew it. We'll lift the lid slightly off because I've had issues with condensation. Everything in there is now steam filled. And so we want this kind of to neutralize, but we don't want bad air to get in or unfiltered air to get in to this thing. So we'll just crack the lid a little and see if that doesn't work. Okay, so I've moved this now to the inside. Well, you can hear the steam coming out of that. Put that there. And now I don't really hear anything coming out, so we can start taking this down. So that makes me nervous when I unlock this thing, because even though that thing is supposed to be, whoops, I gotta pick that up. All right, so let's see if I can do this. Will it turn? Okay, all right, so no pressure. So you see all the steam coming out. So we're gonna lift this kind of like this. And then what we're gonna do is, just so no bad air, unfiltered air comes down into it. I know it's coming out right now because it's hot and steamy, but we're gonna turn on the laminar flow hood, which I built from scratch. And let me turn this thing. Let me flip this thing on here. Where are my glasses? Hold on. Okay, so I found my glasses. I turned the fan on, so we've got air coming in from the room, in through this filter, HEPA filter, down through this fan motor, back behind this thing, this chamber here where pressure builds up. Now we got another filter which causes all that air to flow in a straight line, straight out like this. So that's called a laminar flow hood. And that means any air that would seep down in here is going to be coming through this filter system and will not have spores or bacteria or viruses in it, hopefully. And I've got this thing set up so it's right next to it. So even though it's outside the hood, you still got laminar flow moving in this direction. And so we'll let that go for a few minutes. You can even move it a little closer here. Okay. Now, at this stage, we don't have the petri dishes in there, so I don't have to worry about the condensation. All we have is that jar with the agar in it. So now what I'm going to do, put my glove on. Oh, got my glove on. I'll take this lid off. Okay. And now everything in here is sterile. It's not sterile to the level of agar plates, because that goes for 90 minutes. This was only for 15. But if we did this for 90, the agar would decompose and it wouldn't work anymore. So we did it for 15. This is hot as a motherfucker. There we go. Put that there. And that'll just sit there. Still has that tape on top, so there's no risk, even if I turn this fan off, no risk that that's going to allow bacteria or viruses in it. So that's our agar, nice and warm, still liquidy, right? So we want to pour this before, don't pour it directly, because if it's too hot and we pour it into the agar plates, as it cools, evaporation will cause condensation on the undersurface of the agar lids. So we want this to get down close to room temperature, but not room temperature, because then it's a solid again. So we gotta, now what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna remove these jars, and I'll set the thing up for doing agar plates, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so we're at the stage where I've now put the agar in the flow hood. In fact, I can turn that off. It doesn't really need to be running at this point, because the tape, paper tape on top, not the foil, but the paper tape on top is keeping that sterile. All right, so now we come over here and we take Pyrex culture petri dishes, yeah, and they come in, and we got, I don't know what happened there. All right, so the bottom's on one side, top's on the other. We'll just take these. Now, I would recommend putting them into this, and I put in about a half a gallon more of water at the bottom. Didn't really need it, but some of it was evaporated out, so I refilled that. And so now we'll just kind of fill this thing up with petri jars. And we got multiple layers to go through here and here. So I'm just going to fill them around, leave a little space on the outside for the legs of the one on top of it, 3 legs, and we'll just fill it up. So I've got each one of these carries a dozen. Dozen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's a dozen. So a dozen there, a dozen there. And I didn't need the top one. So we got them all in here, stacked on top of each other. Plenty of room for the steam to get in and around and sterilize this thing. So now we're going to take the lid and we'll line it up. Arrow to ridge thing there. That little in there. Start here, and then we fix it into place. And then, oops, I gotta get the thing there. This is the one that fell off. All right. So when we put these on, obviously we're gonna screw that one first, then the opposite side. Come on. And I'll just work my way around it until it's all sealed up. Then I'll turn this back on, light the flame, put it up to high, come back in 20 minutes, just like we did the last time. And then the whole process all over again. Same thing, temperature at 250, and pressure set to 15 PSI. And we're going to do this one for 90 minutes because we need those agar plates to be super sterile. So once that's done, and I take this inside and open it up, then the sterile part of the whole thing starts. And then I'm wearing a mask, I'm wearing gloves, I'm spraying my gloves down with 70% isopropyl alcohol. Not 90%. You shouldn't sterilize with 90 for some reason. You can run a lamp with 90, but you don't sterilize with 90. You sterilize with 70. So anyway, I'll look up and find out why that is, but that is the way it is. Okay, so let me finish putting this together, start it up, and then I'll start it back up again once it's all finished in 90 minutes. Okay, we are up to temperature, and we are up to pressure. Now, take it down to where I know is the right amount, because I've done it a few times. And now, we start the timer for 90 minutes. Okay, 90 minutes later, we're sitting steady at 250. This is puttering out a little bit of steam. That's what we want. And we are done. So, we'll just turn this off. Righty tighty. There we go. We had that bad boy right where we wanted it. Closed. Let this cool down. Again, this takes about 20 minutes for the temperature. Well, maybe not the temperature. Yeah, the temperature, but also the pressure to come down. This will go down to room temperature. It'll still be hot, but it won't be anywhere near as hot as it is now. And this will still have some steam in it. If I remove that little plug, pull that out, then the steam can escape more readily. And I'll move this inside in front of the laminar flow hood, and then we'll take out the plates. Okay, so while we were waiting for the little disc things to get sterilized, the agar plates, this has cooled down enough that it's starting to, you can see in there, starting to coagulate. So that's a little too clumpy for me to be pouring it into the agar plate. So all we have to do, this is sterile, it's got that film on it, so no problem there. So we can touch it on the outside. And now I'm just putting it into a pot. I'm gonna heat it up to a small light rolling boil, and that heat will get in and kind of get it back up to liquid again. So we'll run this, flame is on, so we'll run this until I get the plates out. Okay, so it is time to take the plates out. And we got the flow hood running here. I'm taking just a N95 mask. Is that what it is? No, probably not. N95. KN95. KN because it's made in China. Alright, so let's get the gloves on. And here I'm just using nitrile gloves, they're not sterile. This 95% isopropyl is for this flame. When I need to do cutting and stuff, I need to sterilize the blades, these right here. But for sterilizing everything else, we use 70% nitrile. Okay, and I just put that in this little spray bottle, label it, and then we spray anything and everything that we touch, including our gloves, with the 90%. Yeah. All right, so let's make sure the pressure is gone. You hear that? That hissing sound is steam coming out, so that thing is not depressurized yet. So we will wait for that to end before we dare unhook this lid. Yep, nothing else is coming out, so it's depressurized. So let's start loosening this up. You can just, I can see it. It's hard to see it on the camera. Steam's coming out. You can see water droplets have already formed on the glass plates. We don't really want that. It's still warm in there. So what we'll do is allow that steam to continue to come out. And hopefully it's hot enough in there that they dry the plates out. I've got it in front of this laminar flow hood, so all the air that's going across this lid, even though it's not inside this, it's still within this flow, should be sterile. So we'll let this run for, I guess I'll give it 20 minutes before I take the lid completely off and then quickly move the plates over to this screen. Everything in here is going to be sprayed down with 70% isopropyl alcohol So all that surfaces should be clean, and of course I'll spray my hands down, and then we'll see what we do with the plates. So this is just to show you that this is packaged is what it comes from this company, North Spore. And this comes in a syringe. Keep it refrigerated, but in there you have spores in a nutrient fluid. So it's not just a water, but a nutrient fluid that keeps them alive. Boy, this one's hard to read. Oh, you know why? Because I sprayed it with alcohol when I used it last. So this one is turkey tail. This one is reishi luidu. This one is, Vermont, what is this? NMS Maps Vermont M. That's the VM, which I didn't understand what it was. Vermont M. I don't know what that is. Shiitake. So I got reishi, shiitake, and this should be lion's mane. Lion's mane. Yeah. So I don't know what that last one is. The Vermont Mountain. I'll have to look that up. Hope it's not illegal. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so I've removed all of the layers. I had all the plates in them, one by one, in front of the flow hood, right here. This is all the glass. This is not an optimal way to do this. I've got to figure out another way of getting these things dry. Some of them came out pretty dry, but then the rest of them are covered in droplets. It's not good. I can't figure out. It's all sterile at the moment, but it's a nidus for infection. So anyway, everything's sprayed down with the isopropyl 70%, so everything should be sterile. We got the flow hood on, so no air is dribbling down onto these things. We'll let them dry for a few minutes. They're all upside down, so nothing should be falling into them. But I do need to get them closed and get the new stuff poured in. I reboiled this, and I didn't bring it up to a boil, but it was in boiling water. So this is back to being pure liquid and ready to pour. Still sterile because we have this paper tape on there, so, but the outside is obviously not. All right, so what I'm gonna do is respray my gloves with the alcohol, and then try to set up these plates in a way that I can start pouring into them. Right. Okay, so that was a very delicate game of Pyrex Agar Plate Jenga. So I got everything, tops and bottoms put together, did it sterilely under the hood, sprayed gloves. Still has some water in here. It should be sterile, but I don't like it. So if anybody's got an idea how to fix that, that'd be great. Now I'm going to start moving these plates over here, 4x4, and pouring, and then I'll move that to the side and get another set in here. So what we're looking to do is pour these things about halfway up with the liquid auger, which is now liquid, back into solution after having been sprayed. Of course, we'll spray this down with 70% alcohol, make sure everything's sterile. Even though we're not touching the outside to the plates, we don't want any contamination. So there we go. We spray this. So everything we work with constantly being sprayed with 70% isopropyl. All right, so now I'm going to do this and see what it looks like after we're done. Okay, so I may not have filled these low enough. I may have put a little bit too much into these. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 16. So I've got 16 of these plates filled now, and I've still got 8 to go. But I've run out of auger. So maybe 1 liter would do 24 plates. 7.5 will give you 16 plates. So that's good to remember. going forward. That's okay. These will be sterile for when we need them next time. But right now, we're going to let this cool. And once it's cooled and formed up to a solid, then we can spray on or transfer the next set of spores. And after we've done that, and I'll show you how to do that, then we take the paraffin wax, and it comes in like, it's almost like a thin plastic that's stretchable, almost like rubber wax. And so we'll take 3 of those, and I take three squares, cut them in half, and then that half I will use to seal up these plates so that they remain sterile after I put in the spores and after this has turned to a solid. In the meantime, we'll leave this in the hood. Just as well to leave the fan running so that nothing floats in here and somehow gets under the hood and then gets down into the... It's not going to happen. But just to be on the safe side, we're going to leave this thing running. Should give it about an hour to set. So come back in an hour. Okay, so at this point we're going to take this inoculum, which has got the spores in it from the mushrooms, and we're going to put about, what have I got here? 6. We'll put about a half a squirt, half a ml each one in the center. Leave the lid open as short as possible. We don't want, at this point, everything is sterile. I've sprayed everything down with the isopropyl alcohol. I sprayed my gloves. I sprayed this thing all over the place. So all this is sterile. I've already cut the parafilm that I'm going to use, and that's parafilm. Cut the strips so that I can wrap it around the jars after I've inoculated. This is, at this point, everything is